So how are you today, man?
Good.
Thanks for setting this up. Love the fire.
Yeah.
The smokeless pit.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah. Hey, I saw your movie come out Halloween. I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And I saw you repost a Trip.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Trip again. I know we did that in our first video, but you know I'm a fan, right?
Yeah.
I think I've seen, I don't know, Trip a dozen or two times.
Yeah, probably most, You're probably up there with, like, most viewings of it,
if you look at who views it the most, if you could break it down,
yeah.
Probably the same IP address now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so your Halloween movie, you teased it on TikTok, and by the way, congratulations, you've got 1.4, I just looked just right now, 1.4 million followers on TikTok, and I think I looked a couple weeks ago, it was 1.3.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's growing really fast.
Really fast.
Well, when did you hit the tipping point on that?
How to Get a Girl at a party.
That was it?
That was it. That was the moment, yeah. In 5 hours, it got 2.2 million views.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite things to do is to post a TikTok, take a nap, and then wake up to all these views.
Right.
And that was like the most...
You're like, whoa, in 5 hours, 2.2.
Yeah,
that was
dude.
funny.
Yeah.
I still think some of my favorite of your TikToks are I Touch the Wall.
Yeah.
I mean, that obviously was fun. Yeah. I've always wanted to duet that with you. I love that. It's one of my favorites. And the Elf song. I think it's a classic.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But some of your most views on TikTok have come from like just hugging your brother.
I know.
Like something like 8 million views.
October, dude.
What was that about? Like you hugged him and he did these little hand pecks. The whole family like, hey.
Yeah.
Some of those were 4 seconds long. They're really funny.
Dude, I went viral doing that with all 4 of my siblings.
Right.
In October.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and my mom's birthday is coming up soon. Dad's is in January, so
you have to have some fun here.
Yeah.
But that's I think like when you watch your TikToks, it's just you kind of having fun being you.
Right.
You're not putting on like massive production. You're just being super silly, which is kind of who you are.
No doubt.
I love that. But then on Halloween, you released this really awesome 4.5 minute little horror flick.
Yeah.
And it was just you. And it was your first horror flick you've ever done, right?
At all, yeah.
I mean, you've done drama, you've done comedy, but you've never done horror.
Yeah.
So tell me about it. How did you come up with the idea of the harmonica?
So, every year, Octobers have been increasing for me.
Okay.
For the past, 3.
What does that mean, increasing?
That means, so, the first year, I watched probably, 12 horror films that I had never seen.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, dude.
You mean like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So you weren't into the horror genre?
Must have been, it must have been right after Chicago.
So.
But yeah, no,
okay.
I wasn't familiar with the best of the genre.
Okay, so give me what's the best of the genre?
The Thing.
Yeah.
I consider The Babadook to be one of them. The Witch, Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
I just hadn't...
Never worked your way through those classics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So to kind of study those, Nightmare on Elm Street, and...
What's that? You said to study them.
To study them,
so you watch them for pleasure, but to study them too?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
To study the genre. I think it's not each film individually. It's like, what can you do in this genre?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Were you kind of constantly thinking about, I need to make a film? Or did that just kind of come about after the fact?
So this last one, I watched The Exorcist.
Right.
And I haven't watched a movie since October 19th, The Exorcist.
Oh, that was the last movie you watched?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It just happens to be the last movie I watched. So I watched it and just I had bits of inspiration leading up to that, and then watching that movie confirmed it that I need to make a horror film.
Wow.
And I bought the book The Exorcist, and I really haven't even gotten into it much.
And what was it about? What was for you that inspiration point that said, "Oh, I'm going to make a movie now after The Exorcist"? Because it is a classic in the genre, right? And you sent me a great video about the backstory around it, about the filming of it, about the curse of the movie, and all this really interesting stuff. But from a movie perspective, I mean, this was the game changer. It's one of those films that comes along and like the horror genre is never the same after it.
Right.
So what inspired you?
Well, it was the harmonica. So the harmonica I got at CC Media. I just walked in there and the secretary offered me a harmonica randomly. And so I'm actually, this goes back to a theory that I have of Eden, where I don't necessarily consider the fruit tree chosen to have any significance. I think it was just like, hey, don't touch that tree. It's like a father testing is. He's saying, test me.
Right.
And so I chose a simple harmonica. I chose a simple inanimate object that would be the same thing. Do not play.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
you get the first seed of temptation after that to like, what if I did?
And how did that come to you watching The Exorcist? I'm kind of curious, what's the connection? You said you were inspired. Was something in The Exorcist, the movie, something about a harmonica in there? Or was it just something kind of just clicked with you and then you connected it to the harmonica?
I think it was the demonic part of Exorcist that was, I believe, wholly in that realm.
Right. Yeah. The spiritual realm, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that movie truly terrifies me.
Right.
So I think that's where it lies, because it's hard for me to get scared by a horror film. I watch the new It.
Right.
No offense to the filmmakers, but I'm watching this thinking, I think I'm supposed to be scared or unnerved right now.
And you're like, I'm fine.
But I'm really not.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I am fine. And so I wanted my horror film. I had a friend tell me, man, it was weird.
Yeah.
And I go, in an affecting way, or like,
Yeah.
in a oh, that's just weird way.
Yeah.
And he goes, maybe not either of those.
Right.
You know, it's in this other category, and he couldn't place it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think that's what I was going for. I wasn't going for like gore. I was going for like an icky, like,
Yeah, right.
I don't like that.
Well, you know, I think you and I were I mentioned this to you the other day, but I read a quote or something about an author, a book, right? And there's a relationship between every reader and every book that's really unique. No one experiences the book the same. Same as the movie, right? No one experiences the movie exactly the same.
Right.
And you're not necessarily making it for a mass crowd. You're making it for the individual who's going to be touched by it in his or her unique way. And that was my experience of it too. I didn't get all the background thought into it until we talked after the fact.
Yeah.
But once you were kind of explaining to me what went into it, I was like, oh, totally. So you're watching The Exorcist and the demonic part, and you're going, okay, there's a seed here. There's something for me to talk about. And then you go to CCTV at some point before or after watching the movie, and you get a harmonica.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't touch it. Don't eat it. Don't play it. And then what happened from there?
So, I played the harmonica. You know,
Right.
kind of a side note. I wanted to figure out a horror score, solely harmonica. I was like, that would be. It would have to be very intense in order to be affecting to any degree. So parts. I mean, I have certain takes on my hard drive that are like 10 minutes, and there's several of them of me just tooting around on the harmonica. I'm just figuring out what sounds
Right.
icky to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so in the film, one of the background thoughts behind it is that harmonica represents something that you're not supposed to play.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. And so initially, the character says, receives a harmonica on the porch. I looked over here because you filmed it here, right?
Yeah.
Right over there on the porch.
Right.
That's funny. So the character receives a package.
Yeah.
And the package says, do not play. but it is kind of interesting that it was still delivered to the person, right?
Right.
Like here's something.
Yeah.
It exists. It's playable.
Yeah.
Right. It's in perfectly good working condition, but do not play. Right.
Right.
And then what happens in the character?
He is scared by it. It overwhelms him almost immediately when he's walking out of the room, and it plays
Right.
without permission.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know,
that look is
it's
great.
going in the trash.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that right there, I mean, that right there is my struggle with any sin or vice. That is I mean, it's on film. That is the not definition, but you know what I'm saying.
But that's so good. It's almost like the things that create vice in us have a life of their own. They have their own existence, right? Yeah. And so while you're doing your own thing, the harmonica plays, like the vice lives, it calls you. And so you try and toss it.
Yeah.
But it comes back.
It does. It does. Stronger.
Stronger. Oh, is that
stronger?
Oh, that's the motif. It comes
in
back
the window.
stronger.
Yeah. Comes back here in the backyard, and then in the front porch. And I also indicate the doorbell as happening one time in the beginning, and then 3 times right there.
Gotcha. I love that thought. And if you hadn't pointed out, I wouldn't have picked up on that very thoughtful element of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming back saying, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Well,
I also, when I recorded those, I recorded a pound on the door, and then a dot, 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 like that. And I don't think I ever put it in, but there's still room for a sequel because, you know, who knows that burning the harmonica in the end really gets rid of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I love you. I think you should do a sequel. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Because my notion there is that sin is just something you will have for the rest of your life. If you plant that seed, you're never going to be able to really get into the roots and like dig it out until
we go home.
Until you go home.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a great thought. So eventually, the character then does something. I think like I'm picking up on your motif now. So now he goes into a secret place. He goes into the shed.
Yeah. Dark.
Right. And
alone,
secluded in his own little world, and he's like, "What is this thing?" And then he plays it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that not what happens?
Yeah.
You know.
That's how you start.
The amount of time that I just spend in my bedroom, or even in my car, just like really, or I can even be with people.
Yeah, right.
And not there, you know.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Kind of get the harmonica can kind of be calling out to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be technically secluded. You can be secluded inside, even while you're surrounded by a crowd of people.
Family events. You can be at a family event and texting somebody. I'm not supposed to be texting.
Right.
You know. And it's my own thing.
Right.
I picture somebody at a table and they're in regular motion and everybody is in a different speed as them, or a different color grade, or you know. But yeah, that's exactly what it's like. So I had to depict it.
I love that, and I love how you depicted it. That scene in the shed is amazing.
For sure.
It's so classic. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the shadows. I love that nothing's really clear.
Yeah.
But you know exactly what's going on, right?
I love just the lighting. I remember just like walking past it and seeing the light and being like, oh dude, that is it. I can get a wide, just like throw it, and then I experimented with where to stand too. I stood back further and I picked that lighting. I love the silhouette
Yeah. That was perfect.
For sure.
That was really perfect.
Ended up being a great teaser too.
Yeah, well, that was a good teaser.
Yeah.
I love that you released your teaser and you hadn't even finished the film yet, right?
Yeah, I hadn't finished filming. Yeah. I finished the morning of Halloween Day. But I wouldn't have had it any other way because I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I meant to. I only filmed when I had inspiration.
Right.
That night.
You didn't force it.
I didn't force it at all. The 30th. It's like 9:15, and I'm like, man, I need to film this thing if I want to release it tomorrow.
But you couldn't.
I couldn't. It wasn't there. I was playing Skyrim at like 3 in the morning and podcasting, and then it came to me.
And it was right there. It was.
And I got up and filmed it. Yeah.
That's so good. You put it together and you released it the same day.
At 5:30 in the morning, a couple hours later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good. So what happens to the character after he plays the harmonica? So he goes to his own secluded place.
Yeah.
He plays it, and nothing immediately happens. Right.
This is where I take inspiration from the Babadook, and she becomes possessed in the film. So my character did, and I experimented. I initially had a shot that was up here, like that, and I bend that. Oh, it might actually be in the film. I think it is actually. But I experimented with how to play that because I didn't want it to be. I also initially had it like, just like.
You're trying different ways of being
possessed.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I never wanted. To me, it never meant possessed.
Right.
It meant. I don't even know if oppress is the word. It's just a part of your life. It's attached.
Right.
And you're practicing it.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Well said. Well said.
Shoving the food into my mouth.
Right.
I'm not chewing. I'm just like because that's the sin. It doesn't even have to. I mean, that is also a gluttonous
just
sin. But I'm also just it's just
sheer lack of control. Just
oh yeah. Over excessive.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And when did it come to the part where it gets exercised? Because there was a kind of showing the oppression, possession, the attachment, all of that. And then there's that great scene in the bathroom where you vomit this thing up.
Yeah.
And
because everything that you do becomes regurgitation of that sin.
Yeah. So good.
I notice it in myself. I notice it in other people. Like when people have a hard time. Sin wants to be found out. That's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Just like a serial killer desires opening that newspaper and knowing that they found the scene, and like going back into like in their mind they fantasize about them finding that scene and like what took place, and that's why they return to it.
And that's kind of the life of sin. Sin wants to read about itself in the paper.
Yes.
So to speak.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Sin. If I noticed that with like comedy, a lot of jokes, you can find a lot of truth if you take apart jokes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can get to the heart of that person telling it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love our comedians, right?
Yes.
They say things that other people can't say.
Yeah.
Especially in this weird, politically correct world. The last thing you ever want to shut down is comedians.
Yeah.
Right. We need to laugh.
Yeah.
So then at the very end of the movie, you got the regurgitation scene, and the character finds himself in front of the candle, and he says, "This little light of mine."
Yeah.
And it's kind of going back, because to me that's an old, like a song from Sunday school, or from childhood times with your parents, or maybe campfire times. It's very, to me, it kind of took you back to me it was being a kid again, kind of being innocent.
Yeah.
Going back to innocence, and saying, "This little light of mine," kind of staying near the light, even a small light.
Right. Because it's such a simple ask.
Yeah.
That the Lord requests of us.
Oh yeah.
It's as small as a little candlelight.
Yeah.
It's ask me into your heart and like find some redemption, find some freedom of this sin.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's where the movie closes.
Yes.
it ends on that little, this little light of mine, you fade.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good, man. Yeah, that's good. You did a lot in 4.5 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
I looked for stuff like wasted time, and it really
Yeah.
wasn't anything in there. It was very nicely put together. And so if you haven't seen the harmonica, please watch it. You'll see it on Collin's YouTube channel, or is it on any other platforms?
Instagram.
Instagram,
IGTV. That's my first TV video that I posted. That's longer than a minute.